Right now, you're probably not afraid of much. The lights work, the door locks. If something goes wrong, you can call someone. Fear, for most of you, is mostly an emotion, not a daily survival calculation. That was not always true. For most of human history, fear wasn't a feeling you managed. It was information. It was the difference between waking up tomorrow and not waking up at all. And the things that scared your ancestors most weren't always the things you'd expect. So what actually kept ancient humans afraid? Not occasionally, not in nightmares, constantly, every single day, for hundreds of thousands of years. Let's start with the obvious one, because it really was that bad. Predators. Not the predators you're picturing from a documentary. Bigger. Around 100,000 years ago, the world was full of animals specifically built to kill things the size of a human. Cave lions 25% larger than modern African lions. Short-faced bears that could run 40 miles per hour and stood over 10 feet tall. Cave hyenas with a bite force that could crush bone, hunting in packs of 20 or more, often at night, when early humans could barely see. A chimpanzee, 3 times stronger than a human, still gets killed by leopards regularly. Early humans were slower than chimps, weaker than chimps, and couldn't see in the dark. So the fear of predators wasn't abstract. It was constant background noise. Every sound in the dark was a potential threat. Every shadow could be the last thing you ever saw. This fear shaped everything: where humans slept, how groups organized themselves, why being alone was so dangerous that solitude itself became something to fear. Which brings us to the second fear, one that's almost invisible to us now because we never have to think about it: being alone. Not loneliness in the modern emotional sense. Physical, literal abandonment. For most of human history, a person separated from their group had a dramatically lower chance of survival. No one to watch for predators while you slept. No one to help if you got injured. No one to share food with if you couldn't find any. This fear ran so deep that some researchers believe it's baked into modern human psychology. The intense discomfort people feel during social rejection, the anxiety of being excluded from a group, these may be echoes of a fear that was once, quite literally, a matter of life and death. Being cast out wasn't a social inconvenience. It was often a death sentence, just a slower one than a predator's jaws. Now let's talk about something that doesn't show up in movies about prehistoric life, but absolutely should: the night itself. For 300,000 years, when the sun went down, the world became almost completely dark. No artificial light existed for most of that time. Darkness meant you couldn't see predators, couldn't see threats, couldn't see anything beyond the small circle of firelight, if you even had fire. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have found that people who wander away from the fire at night are significantly more likely to be killed by predators, even today. The fear of darkness isn't superstition. It's an accurate risk assessment that got passed down so consistently it became instinct. This is likely why, even now, with electric lights everywhere, so many people feel a flicker of unease in total darkness. Your brain isn't being irrational. It's running software that's hundreds of thousands of years old, in an environment that no longer matches the threat it was built for. Next, starvation. Not hunger in the sense of skipping a meal. Starvation as a real recurring possibility. For most of human history, food security didn't exist. A bad season, a failed hunt, a drought. Any of these could mean weeks without enough to eat. And unlike predators, which were an immediate, visible threat, starvation was slow. It was the fear that sat in the background of every decision. How much do we eat now versus save? How far do we travel for food versus stay safe? Whether to take a risk hunting something dangerous because the alternative was certain hunger. This constant calculation shaped human behavior so deeply that some researchers argue our modern relationship with food, the anxiety some people feel around scarcity, the instinct to overeat when food is abundant, is a direct echo of this ancient fear. Your body may still be preparing for a famine that, for most of you, will never come. Then there's a fear that's harder to quantify, but shows up across nearly every ancient culture in some form: the unexplained. Ancient humans had no framework for disease, for sudden death, for natural disasters. When someone became sick and died for no visible reason, when the ground shook, When the sky turned strange colors, there was no germ theory, no plate tectonics, no atmospheric science to explain it. What filled that gap was fear of the unknown, and the things humans imagined might be causing it. Across cultures separated by oceans and thousands of years, you find strikingly similar fears. Angry spirits, cursed individuals, supernatural punishment for unseen transgressions. These weren't random superstitions. They were attempts to make an incomprehensible, dangerous world feel slightly more predictable. If a bad event had a cause, even an invented one, at least there was something to do about it. Appease the spirit. Avoid the cursed person. Perform the ritual. Fear of the unexplained may have been, in some ways, almost as practical as fear of a lion. An unpredictable world is a dangerous one. Giving danger a shape, even an imagined one, was a way of coping with a threat that had no shape at all. And finally, the fear that ties all the others together. Winter. For ancient humans living through ice ages, winter wasn't a season. It was an annual test that could simply end your life. Cold that could kill in hours. Food sources that vanished for months. Every single year, without exception, was a countdown to a period where survival was genuinely uncertain. Communities that made it through one winter knew, with total certainty, that another one was coming. There was no permanent safety. No matter how good the previous summer had been, winter reset everything back to a fight for survival. This is perhaps the closest thing ancient humans had to existential dread. Not fear of a specific moment, but fear of an entire season that returned, every year, like clockwork, and could not be avoided. So here's what fear actually looked like for most of human history. Not an occasional spike of adrenaline. A constant, layered background hum. Predators in the dark, isolation from the group, the night itself, the possibility of starvation, the unexplained forces that seemed to control everything, and the certainty that winter was always coming again. And here's the strange part. You're still carrying pieces of all of it. The unease in total darkness, the sting of social rejection, the anxiety around running out of food, even when your fridge is full, the discomfort with the unexplained illness, the bad news with no clear cause. None of these fears made sense to remove from human psychology, because for hundreds of thousands of years, they were the only thing standing between your ancestors and not existing at all. You're not irrational for feeling them. You're just running very old software in a world that mostly stopped needing it. Mostly.